Our story begins with Hiro Momose, a timid and clumsy first-year high school student seated in her classroom as she fidgets with her possessions. Her coin purse suddenly slips from her grasp, sending coins scattering across the floor in every direction. A nearby classmate observes the mess and addresses her with a tone mixing frustration and instruction, directing Momose to search carefully and pointing out additional coins near the corner. Overwhelmed with embarrassment, Momose hastily collects her coins while thanking the girl, her voice barely audible yet filled with sincere appreciation. As she retrieves the final coin, her thoughts turn inward. She reflects on how thankful she is for her peaceful high school existence, especially after the chaos of middle school, a period marked by her clumsiness and constant encounters with delinquents. Her introspection is interrupted when her homeroom teacher enters and calls her name. He calmly requests she come to the faculty office for a discussion. Surprised by the unexpected summons, Momose follows without objection. Inside the faculty office, the teacher gets directly to the point. She's the sole student who hasn't selected a club yet. His tone carries mild concern as he reminds her that club participation is mandatory. Bowing apologetically, Momose murmurs an apology, uncertain how to respond. The teacher doesn't drop the subject, suggesting she try clubs out and mentioning it could even be enjoyable. Momose hesitates before admitting with visible discomfort that she's already attempted joining several clubs only to be politely rejected by all of them. Hearing this, the teacher's expression softens as he considers her situation. Then, as if struck by sudden inspiration, his eyes settle on Itakura, a serious, composed student from Momose's class. His voice brightens as he calls Itakura over, asking if he's still seeking members for the Helpers Club. Itakura, who had been quietly observing, confirms he is. The teacher explains that most club members are inactive, leaving Itakura as the only active participant. Itakura adds that he's been contemplating dissolving the club if no additional members join soon. Momose processes this information with increasing curiosity. She realizes a club with inactive members wouldn't demand much from her and decides this might be her opportunity. Speaking up, she announces her decision to join. Itakura responds with a polite thank you, his typically serious demeanor softening slightly. Later, as they walk together, Itakura explains the Helpers Club's purpose, essentially a volunteer organization assisting with school events and fulfilling requests from the teachers and students. Momose listens carefully but can't help blurting out her thoughts, comparing the club to a group of official servants. The blunt observation catches Itakura off guard, making him laugh nervously while she quickly waves her hands apologetically. She explains that during middle school, delinquents frequently made her run errands and perform small tasks, so she understands the concept of being a servant. As she observes Itakura, her mind begins wandering. She notes how capable he is, excelling at academics, athletics, and maintaining his serious composure. In her thoughts, she labels him as her complete opposite. Lost in contemplation, Momose doesn't notice where she's heading and accidentally collides with a wall. Itakura stops and looks at her with genuine concern, asking if she's all right. Blushing, she reassures him she is. Inwardly, she starts feeling hopeful about the club. With someone like Itakura as president, she thinks the Helpers Club might actually be enjoyable. Just then, a loud voice shatters her thoughts. A boy from her middle school days, a bully she desperately hoped never to encounter again, stands before her looking smug. He immediately recognizes her and teases about her attending a new school, his words mocking as he comments on her different appearance, and sarcastically asks if the new school gave her a makeover. Momose freezes, dread washing over her. She tells herself how desperately she wanted to avoid this exact scenario. The boy throws an arm around her shoulder, grinning maliciously as he pulls out his phone, announcing he'll show their old friends what she looks like now and insisting they take a photograph together. Before Momose can react, Itakura steps forward, calm but firm. He grabs the bully's hand, preventing him from capturing the photo. He tells the boy that Momose doesn't like it and that he should stop. The bully, surprised but defiant, questions Itakura's actions and tries pulling his hand away. When Itakura doesn't relent, the boy mutters insults about how annoying and serious Itakura is before finally walking away. Momose watches in awe, completely stunned. She marvels at Itakura's bravery and kindness, thinking to herself that he truly went out of his way to help her. Itakura sighs as if exasperated, calling her shorty to lighten the mood. Confused, Momose thinks about his word choice but doesn't respond immediately. Itakura notices her silence and urges her to speak up next time, telling her not to remain silent and encouraging her to say something when people pick on her. Momose's thoughts spiral as she reflects on Itakura's kindness. She blushes, silently musing that perhaps the Helpers Club and Itakura himself might turn out better than she expected. The scene shifts to the Helpers Club's next activity, revitalizing the school's flower garden. Momose holds a wilted flower, carefully examining it when Itakura casually mentions his past. He admits he used to be a delinquent, though he kept it secret. His tone is straightforward, though he seems slightly uneasy sharing this part of his history. Momose looks at him, surprised. She notices his awkward posture, revealing a mix of discomfort and sincerity. He warns her not to tell anyone about his past, his voice carrying seriousness. Still flustered, Momose blurts out that he should have left her alone the previous day instead of intervening. Itakura responds without hesitation, explaining that ignoring the situation would have been pathetic. Momose takes a moment to study him, her thoughts racing. She realizes how selflessly he'd intervened, and wonders why someone like him would even bother helping her. Breaking the momentary silence, Itakura's tone becomes light-hearted again as he scolds her. He tells her she should have said something to the bully instead of staying silent, insisting that standing up for herself is important. Momose, feeling embarrassed and frustrated, replies that she didn't have any choice at the time. She promises that when the moment is right, she'll handle things differently. Itakura looks at her with a teasing smirk, his eyes narrowing playfully. He tells her he has an idea if she can't use words to stand up for herself. Curious but cautious, Momose asks what he means. Without missing a beat, Itakura suggests she should punch her bullies hard with her fist. His tone is deadly serious, but his suggestion is so absurd that Momose is left speechless. She stares at him incredulously, thinking how crazy the idea is. Her thoughts wander back to middle school, where she often felt powerless against the delinquents surrounding her. She quietly tells him about her clumsy, pathetic past, admitting she understood why people mocked her. Itakura listens intently before responding, his words simple yet impactful as he asks if this isn't the very reason she wanted to change herself. Hearing this, Momose is stunned. His words strike a chord within her, leaving her momentarily speechless. They exchange a quiet glance before Itakura abruptly changes the topic, rushing away from the seriousness of the moment. He suggests they focus on finishing their gardening task instead. The next day, Momose finds herself watering the flowers in the garden. Itakura's words from the previous day replay in her mind. His question about her desire to change lingers, and she begins doubting herself, wondering if changing her appearance has really made her any different from who she used to be. Suddenly, voices interrupt her thoughts. A group of delinquents approaches the garden. Momose turns, startled, realizing they're connected to her former middle school bully. One of them comments loudly that the glasses-wearing guy isn't present, while another grumbles about the annoyance of searching for him. The delinquents quickly notice her and mockingly ask if she's part of the gardening club. When she hesitantly corrects them, explaining it's the Helpers Club, they laugh and call it a servant club. One of the boys kicks a nearby plant, grinning as he sarcastically offers to help. Momose, horrified, steps forward, attempting to stop him. The boy glares at her, his tone growing angrier as he demands to know why she's interfering. Another delinquent tries calming him down, but the damage is already done. Momose feels panic rising within her. Her thoughts spiral as she realizes she can't do anything to stop them. Her fears from middle school resurface, and she tells herself she has no idea what these boys are capable of. One of the delinquents picks up a water bucket and announces that the plants need watering, clearly intending to cause more harm. Momose instinctively steps forward, raising her hand to shield the plants. The entire bucket of water spills onto her instead, soaking her completely. The scene freezes momentarily as everyone, including the delinquents, stares at her in shock. Then, as if on cue, Itakura makes his dramatic entrance. His voice is calm yet commanding as he approaches, addressing Momose. He remarks on how hot the day is, casually unzipping his jacket and draping it over her soaked shoulders. Momose looks at him, her thoughts a mix of awe and disbelief. Even after everything that just happened, she feels like a failure. Itakura, ever composed, removes his glasses and hands them to her, grinning as he tells her how cool she is for standing up to the delinquents. He runs a hand through his hair, his demeanor shifting into something sharper and more confident. One of the delinquents whispers to his companion, asking if this is the same glasses guy they heard about. The other confirms, though he looks skeptical. The leader of the group steps forward, taunting Itakura. He questions if removing his glasses makes him stronger, sneering as he waits for a response. Itakura doesn't waste any time. He delivers a solid punch to the delinquent's face, his voice firm as he declares that it does indeed make him stronger. The bullies, taken aback, begin to retreat, though one of them records the incident on his phone. Momose watches, amazed by Itakura's swift actions. She can't believe how effortlessly he handled the situation, and a part of her feels deeply grateful. Later, the two of them sit outside a convenience store eating ice cream. Itakura looks relaxed as he comments that the incident should silence the delinquents for good. Momo, staring at her ice cream, reflects on what happened. She silently recalls how Itakura had joked about punching someone, and how it had actually worked. Her thoughts drift to her past again, and she admits almost absent-mindedly that she doesn't like delinquents. She confesses that they're rough and look down on others, but then with a shy smile she tells Itakura that he's different. He responds bluntly, reminding her that he's not a delinquent anymore. Momose doesn't believe him, but doesn't say it aloud. Instead, she marvels and ironically at how incredible he'd been during the confrontation, though she also wonders if he went too far. Itakura breaks her thoughts by teasing her. He tells her that since he bought her ice cream, she should keep quiet about the incident. Momose immediately protests, saying she doesn't want the ice cream if it comes with such conditions. Before she can finish, Itakura shoves his popsicle into her mouth, effectively silencing her. He grins and points out that the ice cream can't be returned now. Momose blushes furiously while Itakura laughs, his mood lighter than ever. Feeling flustered and defeated, she decides to let it go, though she mutters to herself that she still doesn't like delinquents. She crosses her arms in mock annoyance, finally blurting out that he wins, though her tone suggests she doesn't mind as much as she pretends to. Momose is busy with her second task of the day, picking up trash scattered across the area. As she works, her thoughts wander, and she silently declares to herself that she is Hero Momose, a first-year high school student and member of the Helpers Club. She pauses momentarily, thinking about the oddness of the situation. She reminds herself that the club only has 2 members. Her gaze flicks to the ground, noticing another patch of litter ahead. She sighs internally and continues gathering trash. While working, her thoughts shift again, and she considers how today her task is collecting trash. Feeling a moment of accomplishment, she calls out aloud to herself, announcing she's finished picking up all the trash. But just as she starts feeling done, she spots even more litter further ahead. Her mind drifts to the other club member, Itakura. She thinks to herself how he's not only a fellow member, but also the president, and they're in the same class. Just then she sees Itakura holding a discarded tobacco box. He approaches a boy standing nearby and firmly accuses him of having dropped it. The boy's expression twists with anger as he grabs Itakura by the collar, aggressively denying the accusation. He makes it clear he hasn't dropped the box. He's thrown it away. Momose's breath hitches as she observes the confrontation. Itakura, however, stands eerily calm, like a statue without any reaction. Her panic grows as she thinks about impending danger, worried that Itakura might get beaten up. But in a flash, Itakura strikes back with swift, precise movements. He overwhelms the boy, leaving him bruised and defeated. Watching in shock, Momose's thoughts scramble as she realizes Itakura has come out on top. However, her conclusion humorously shifts to note that it isn't Itakura who gets beaten up. It's the other guy. As the defeated boy stumbles away, Itakura's voice takes on a commanding tone as he warns the boy not to litter again. Momose, still processing everything, recalls a tidbit about Itakura. He's mentioned once that he's a former delinquent. She reminds herself that she's the only one who knows about this part of his past. The boy eventually leaves, and Momose turns toward Itakura to scold him. She voices her concern, pointing out how close they are to the school, and warning him that people might see him. Itakura, remaining as composed as ever, responds, "It isn't a big deal because she'll cover for him." Momose stares at him, baffled. She questions why he's pretending to be a nerd. Itakura, with his usual calmness, clarifies that he isn't pretending. He insists he's quit being a delinquent and only wants a peaceful high school life. He then adds, almost as a command, that Momose will cooperate with him, won't she? Momose hesitates, but eventually agrees with a reluctant tone, assuring him she will. The scene shifts to the classroom where Momose sits at her desk. Her thoughts linger on everything that's happened so far. She reflects on how she'd believed her servant phase was over, but now everything feels like middle school all over again. Her train of thought is interrupted when Yamamoto, one of her classmates, approaches her. Yamamoto asks if she's friends with Itakura. Momose awkwardly responds, explaining that they aren't exactly friends, but are in the same club. Yamamoto's curiosity doesn't waver as she immediately asks if Itakura is secretly good at fighting. Momose blinks in surprise, asking Yamamoto why she wants to know. Yamamoto explains she's seen a scary-looking person bowing to Itakura the day before, which has sparked her curiosity. Momose's heart skips a beat, her thoughts immediately go into overdrive, panicking at the idea that people have noticed Itakura. She silently scolds herself before quickly changing the story. She tells Yamamoto that Itakura was simply returning something that the person had dropped. To steer the topic further, she remarks how skinny Itakura is, suggesting he wouldn't stand a chance in a fight and could be taken down with a single punch. Internally, however, she's sweating bullets, worrying about what Itakura might do if he overhears her. To wrap things up, she confidently adds that she doubts Itakura would ever get into a fight. At that moment, Itakura enters the classroom. He casually calls out to Momose, suggesting they head to club activities. Momose sighs in relief, thinking to herself how lucky she is that Itakura hasn't heard her conversation with Yamamoto. Itakura turns to Yamamoto and asks her what's up. Yamamoto, clearly startled, quickly dismisses him, saying it's nothing. The scene shifts to the Helpers Club room. Momose wastes no time addressing Itakura. She immediately scolds him, pointing out how close he is to getting caught. She stresses that her earlier comments were meant to protect him. Itakura brushes off her concern, stating that since she hasn't spilled anything, there's no problem. Momose's gaze shifts to a plushie in the room that serves as a cushion. She picks it up and studies it momentarily, her mind briefly distracted. She then warns Itakura that despite his reassurances, he's bound to end up fighting again. Itakura, confident, promises that next time he won't. What happens next completely throws Momose off. Itakura begins unbuttoning his shirt, catching her off guard. Momose freezes in place, her thoughts spiraling. She can't understand what he's trying to do. She can't help but stare at his abs, her face flushing red. Itakura notices and chuckles, teasing her about being a creep and blushing too hard. He leans closer and brings up her earlier comment about him being skinny. He sarcastically agrees with her, asking if she still thinks he'd be taken out with one punch. Momose's heart sinks as she realizes he overheard her. Itakura, seemingly unbothered, tosses his shirt at her and informs her that their task for the day is pulling weeds around the school field. He tells her to get changed and meet him there quickly. Still flustered, Momose clutches the plushie tightly. She thinks to herself how Itakura is definitely not skinny at all. The scene shifts to the school field where the Helpers Club begins their latest task, pulling weeds. Momose crouches down, tugging at stubborn patches of grass and muttering internally about how this club constantly makes her feel like a servant. As she works, her mind wanders back to middle school and a feeling of déjà vu creeps in. She glances over at Itakura, who is diligently working nearby. His focus surprises her, and she thinks to herself how unexpected it is to see Itakura putting in so much effort during club activities. Then, almost as if drawn by memory, her mind flashes back to the moment in the club room when Itakura removed his shirt. She quickly shakes her head, trying to push the embarrassing thought away, but it lingers nonetheless. Itakura, sensing her distraction, glances at her and asks what's going on. Momose snaps out of her thoughts, hastily responding that it's nothing. She quickly adds that she's struggling to pull a particularly stubborn weed. She gives the weed one last determined tug, only to lose her balance and fall backward. Dirt flies into the air, scattering over both her and Itakura. For a moment they both freeze. Then Momose looks up at Itakura, mortified. He wipes some dirt off his face and then leans closer, glaring down at her with a smirk. Itakura calls her shorty, his tone teasing but firm. Before she can retort, he reaches out and rubs dirt onto her cheeks, chuckling as he declares it's his revenge. Momose, still on the ground and thoroughly confused, stares up at him. She cautiously asks if he's angry. Itakura raises an eyebrow and responds, asking why he would be angry. He explains that he's used to her clumsiness by now, his tone light-hearted. Hearing this, Momose feels her face heat up. Her cheeks turn bright red, and she's sure it's not just from the dirt. She stammers, denying that she's laughing at anything. Itakura notices her reaction and asks what's so funny. When she insists there's nothing, he shrugs it off, brushing dirt off his own hands and returning to pulling weeds. The next scene opens with Momose walking happily through the school corridors. She's practically skipping, her mood light and carefree. Her thoughts buzz with excitement about not having any club duties that day. She wonders aloud what she should do at home, imagining all the possibilities. Her daydreaming is abruptly interrupted when a student comes rushing past her, accidentally bumping into her and dropping a pile of books. The books hit her arm and she spins around, calling out in annoyance. As she turns, her attention is drawn to a small crowd of students gathered ahead. Something about their posture and hushed murmurs piques her curiosity. She frowns, muttering to herself as she tries figuring out what's happening. When she finally gets a clear view, her heart sinks. In the middle of the group is Itakura, his collar clutched tightly by a bully. Momose's stomach drops as she realizes Itakura is in trouble. The bully's voice rings out, filled with anger. He accuses Itakura of interfering with his plans, claiming he couldn't get his money because of him. He demands that Itakura pay up instead. Momo stands frozen, piecing things together in her mind. She realizes Itakura must have helped someone escape the bully earlier, and now the bully is seeking revenge. Her thoughts race as she considers the situation. She desperately hopes Itakura won't retaliate in a place like this. Surely he wouldn't start a fight right in the middle of a school grounds, would he? But her fears are confirmed as Itakura makes his move. With startling speed, he grabs the bully's wrist in a firm, unyielding grip. His expression darkens, and his strength is impossible to ignore. Momo panics, her instincts taking over. She sprints toward him, grabs his arm, and yanks him away with all her strength. Itakura, startled, turns to look at her in surprise. The bully shouts after them, furious at their sudden escape, but Momo doesn't stop. She keeps running, dragging Itakura along until they reach a hiding spot. Breathing heavily, they duck behind a small shed, crouching close together. Momo clings to Itakura in a tight embrace, her heart pounding in her chest. She silently curses the situation, realizing just how close they are in proximity. The bullies' voices echo nearby as they search for the pair. One of them shouts angrily, demanding to know where they've gone. Momo holds her breath, silently praying they won't be found. She dares to peek out, her body pressed against Itakura's, and sees the bullies giving up. They mutter among themselves and decide to leave. Once the coast is clear, Momo lets out a sigh of relief. She turns to Itakura and tells him it looks like the bullies have given up. Itakura, however, doesn't share her relief. He looks at her seriously and reminds her that, while he's asked for her cooperation, she shouldn't have intervened in that kind of situation. Momo protests, her voice filled with worry. She points out that if he'd gotten hurt, things would have been worse. She then scolds him, reminding him of his promise to quit being a delinquent. She asks him firmly if he doesn't also want to change for the better. Itakura's eyes soften as he remembers a similar moment from the past when he said something similar to her. He falls silent, the weight of her words sinking in. Momo, realizing she might have overstepped, begins to panic. She worries he might actually get angry with her. But to her surprise, Itakura simply says, "Okay." Momo blinks in disbelief, asking him to repeat himself. Itakura smirks, reaching out to tap her forehead with his finger. He repeats that he said, "Okay," and that he'll stop fighting. He then makes a promise, his tone resolute. Momo stares at him, taken aback by his seriousness. It's almost intimidating. Itakura notices her expression, and with an annoyed tone, accuses her of doubting him. He then breaks into a teasing grin, jokingly asking if she wants to seal the promise with a pinky swear. Momo, flustered, quickly agrees. She reaches out and hooks her little finger around his. They lock pinkies, gripping tightly momentarily. Itakura's teasing smile returns as he comments on how funny she is. Momo blushes, her gaze lingering on him. Her thoughts turn inward, reflecting on the unusual feeling his laughter gives her. Normally, delinquent behavior scares her, but for some reason, Itakura's laughter doesn't. The scene begins with Momo reflecting on her task for the day. As she collects trash, she reminds herself this is the Helpers Club, a small group with only 2 members. Her thoughts shift to the day's activity, helping someone find clothes to wear to a class event. With determination, she prepares herself for the next steps. The scene transitions to a shopping mall where Momo waits for her club partner Itakura. She stands near the entrance, glancing at her watch and thinking to herself how late Itakura is. As she scans the crowd, her gaze falls on a familiar figure approaching from a distance. Her eyes widen and she thinks excitedly that there he is. She waves at him, but as he comes closer, her surprise grows. Itakura is wearing a cool, stylish outfit, completely unlike his usual nerdy school attire. When Itakura finally reaches her, he apologizes for being late, slightly out of breath. Momo can't help but stare at him in disbelief. She processes the situation in her mind, labeling him as the day's beneficiary for the Helpers Club. She thinks about how Itakura, usually a nerd at school, is secretly a former delinquent, a fact only she knows. This hidden side of him makes her pause as she looks at him in his unexpected outfit. Unable to contain her shock, Momo blurts out that he looks like a delinquent. She questions what he means by calling himself a former delinquent, accusing him of still appearing like one. Itakura scratches the back of his head and explains calmly that this is pretty much all he has in his closet. Momo is stunned momentarily, thinking to herself how ridiculous this is. Itakura adds that it's why he needs her help, admitting it would be strange for him to attend the class event dressed like this. Momo imagines him showing up in his current outfit and internally declares it would be extremely weird. Annoyed by her blunt honesty, Itakura shoots back, calling her Shorty. As they talk, a couple walking by casts glances at Itakura's striking appearance. Noticing this, Momosu quickly grabs Itakura's arm and apologizes to the couple, attempting to diffuse any misunderstanding. She then urges Itakura to come with her, pulling him away before anything can escalate. As they walk through the mall, Momosu remembers how Itakura once promised her he would stop fighting. However, she thinks to herself that she doesn't fully trust him yet. They enter a clothing store, and Itakura begins browsing. He picks up a punk-style jacket and mutters about how he keeps choosing flashy options. Momosu stares at the jacket in disbelief, asking where he even found something so bold. Itakura points to another jacket, considering it, but Momosu interrupts, finally addressing the bigger issue. She asks if he's truly worried about their classmates discovering his delinquent past. Itakura hesitates before confessing that this is the first time he's ever been invited to a class event. He recalls how a group of classmates had approached him with an invitation, something he never thought would happen. Itakura shares that back in middle school, his reputation for getting into fights kept him from being included in events. As he speaks, Momosu's imagination runs wild. She pictures Itakura in his younger days, involved in brawls with other students. Internally, she admits she wouldn't have invited someone like that either. Looking at him now, she reflects on her own middle school experiences. Memories of her classmates teasing her and forgetting to invite her to an event resurface. She sighs, thinking how relatable his situation is. With renewed determination, she tells him they'll find the perfect outfit. At the fitting rooms, Itakura tries on different outfits while Momosu waits outside, ready with her commentary. When he emerges in the first outfit, she remarks that he looks like an active kid. The second outfit, she notes, works but isn't ideal. The third outfit earns a blunt comment about how he now looks like a player. Finally, Itakura steps out in a look that surprises even Momosu. Blushing, she declares this outfit is perfect and really suits him. Itakura agrees to buy it, but when Momosu suggests he wear it home, he flatly refuses. Not one to give up easily, Momosu pleads with him, and he eventually gives in, albeit reluctantly. As they browse the store further, Momosu's attention is caught by a pair of earrings. Itakura notices her interest and asks if she's planning to buy them. She replies they're cute but hesitates, unsure if she should get them. Without saying much, Itakura picks up the earrings, gently brushes her hair back, and holds them near her ear to see how they look. He steps back, exclaiming that they're really cute. Momosu's cheeks turn bright red at his comment. Flustered, she quickly grabs the earrings from him, saying she'll buy them. Itakura looks confused by her sudden reaction as she rushes off. The day of the event arrives, and the class gathers at a bowling alley. Itakura's bowling skills quickly draw attention as he strikes pin after pin effortlessly. His classmates cheer him on, impressed by his performance. While Momosu watches from the sidelines, she feels proud of him, but worries he's attracting too much attention, and might inadvertently reveal his delinquent side. However, she remembers how excited he was to be included for the first time and feels happy for him. Later, a classmate named Yamamoto notices Momosu's earrings and compliments them, asking if they were a gift from her boyfriend. Embarrassed, Momosu laughs nervously, denying the suggestion and insisting she doesn't even have a crush. Yamamoto teases her further, asking about her type. Momosu pauses before listing a long list of qualities. Someone smart, good at sports, funny, and kind. Yamamoto calls her greedy, and they laugh. Meanwhile, Itakura watches Momosu from across the room. When she catches his gaze, she quickly looks away, flustered. She tells herself there's no way she could ever like someone like him. As the event winds down, the mood shifts when Itakura steps in to break up a tense situation between a bully and another classmate. His calm and respectful approach surprises Momosu, especially when the bully shoves him and slaps him across the face. Itakura apologizes politely and diffuses the situation without retaliating. Momosu watches in awe, realizing he's truly kept his promise not to fight. Later that night, Momosu finds Itakura alone by a bridge. She asks why he hasn't gone home yet. Itakura admits he wants to be cool but feels embarrassed about how he handled the earlier situation. Momosu reassures him, saying his actions were genuinely cool and moved her. Blushing, she adds that he kept his promise, and if anyone calls him pathetic, she'll scold them herself.